Well, welcome to this. We're on the Unity Spiritual Center of Pflugerville. Now, by the way, if we find a new building, we can name this church whatever we decide to. We can be Unity Spiritual Center of Pflugerville, or Hutto, or Round Rock. I don't think we want to go back into Austin, but that's okay. So the idea is, folks, we have people out looking. Now, Valerie brought up some interesting ideas this morning, and this can go out, it doesn't matter. But we need a place. And one of the ideas is there's a lot of churches that meet on Saturday and are closed on Sunday. So would it be nice to partner with them and hold our service on Sunday and let them do their service on Saturday? So, you know, if you see something, if you have a neighbor, whatever, bring ideas in, please. Okay? And right now, the marketplace is changing. Anybody familiar with what's change happening in the business world? Offices are changing. Things are happening. The whole world is going to shift. And as Larry told me earlier, you better hang on because we're just starting. Okay? So the idea behind this is, what's the answer is the subject we're talking about today, which is take time to be holy. Just to give you an example, and this is just coming to my mind. Anybody familiar with filing taxes? Hello? I'm not going to ask you how many have got it done. But really, for about a month now, I've been obsessing, if anybody's familiar with it. Decided to buy TurboTax. And last year, I did pretty well with it. But for some reason, I got fearful. Because anybody agree? I don't know if anybody's ever been through a tax audit. Madeline and I have been through a tax audit. They even came out to our house. They sat with us. We have been through all kinds of things. So we absolutely have a trigger back in our subconscious mind called fear. And for some reason, it came up in my life. And so I put it off, put it off, put it off. Madeline will tell you. I said, I'm going to do it today, and then a day later I'll do it tomorrow. And then, you know, if anybody's familiar with putting things off, because I was fearful. And finally, take time to be holy. And what I frankly did was, I spent quiet time and just said, Father, forgive me, because I know not what I did. Which is the famous quote of Jesus when he was in fear. Forgetting that he is the Christ, which you are, which I am, and we have all things work together for good to them that love God. So we either take that promise, so I did go into stillness. Now it took me a lot of stillness, but it was turning it over. And when I finally decided, okay, I'm going to sit down. Today's Sunday, Friday. Finished it in an hour and a half. Okay? And I submitted it, went right through, they've already accepted it. And no audits, okay? So it's the fear that held me back. So the question is, how much does fear hold you back? And the other idea behind that is, how much does ego hold you back? Because we're always thinking, what if, what if, what if? We're always trying to compete. We're always trying to compete against ourselves and with the world. And so it's taking time to be holy. Now, change is happening, folks. You see, if you understand thermodynamics and the basics of science, there's this thing called entropy, which means things wear out. Everybody got it? Can anybody think of something that never wears out? In the physical world. They're all wear out. Okay? We got a house, we bought that house 4 years ago. Things are now wearing out. I have to empty the hot water tank to make sure it doesn't, stuff build up. I'm noticing that I have to reroute the shaft. Okay? And in your life, what else is changing? Form, physical form grows old. Physical form wears out. Systems that are in the material world get old and don't serve the purpose. Anybody agree? 200, 300, 400 years ago, the systems aren't the same systems that rely today in what we're working on. So things change, and there's a creation that occurs to update to the current state of being. It's called creation. Now, creation is not changing something or making something better. It's actually creating the new. See, entropy is wearing out, which means the form or system is no longer viable. Okay, and anybody have a car that's starting to wear out? And it's called planned obsolescence anyway, but things wear out. So what does that mean? That means that the physical form, the human form, everything in form is slowly deteriorating. Okay? And that's what's true. That means it wears out and change is going to be part of our life. And so the truth is we are created beings. Now, I'm looking for the Word of God has all kinds of baggage behind it. You know, a lot of people grow up in families where the religion is pushed down their throat, so they have a reaction to the Word of God. Anybody? And so, what are all these words? And so, I was reading an article this week. Where's it gone? Over here. Here it is. By the way, I encourage you to look everywhere. Okay? And this happens to be a magazine called Venture Inward, which is the Edgar Casey organization. Okay? And the woman in here uses the term creative force. And you are the creative force. You are part of the creative force. So that means entropy is occurring in our form, and we have the ability to overcome it or create the new. And how do we do it? We don't do it with the physical form ideas. We don't do it with the general knowledge that's in the environment that we're in. In other words, I don't know about you, but I spent years becoming educated, finding out, well, maybe it doesn't work all the time. Okay? So there's this process of within. And that's why we decided to take time to be holy. So what does that mean? What that means is get out of the form, which is deteriorating no matter what I do. I don't know about you, but I can't help my hair. It's leaving me. Okay, now maybe I can change it. Maybe I can change my thinking. But where does my thinking occur? Within. And see, the key to everybody misunderstands what Jesus would say. We've deified Jesus and said, here is God, and he is going to save us. And the idea is, he said, He said the kingdom of heaven is within us. You do it yourself. Okay? So how do we do that? So the idea is the form is energy that is slowly depleting. Okay? And over here is creation, which is creating the new. And the ancients have said God is always for expansion and growth. So in the creative force of the universe, there's an energy for good in the universe, and in that energy, that's part of who we are. And if we allow over here the energies of form to overcome the energies of creation, we slowly go back. And then we wonder how come we don't have world peace. We wonder how come we have diseases. We wonder all that stuff. And it looks like it's unfair. It looks like we lack justice. It looks like all these things. However, the phrase is, that which I feared has come. So that the idea that we are a creative being, creating our world, is a new idea, really. Now a lot of you, we're talking to the choir here. But the truth is, we are so deeply embedded in that idea in the physical world that we have to work hard, we have to do all all these things. And the key to it is take time to be holy. Now, and you can tell I've got 3 pages of notes back there, but I'm going. The question is, what did Jesus say? And what have we embodied in our world that is using the creative force that we are? And we are using the creative force of the ego that says you have to do all of these rules this way. Okay? You have to stop at red lights. Thank God we do. Okay. So there are rules and regulations in the form world to make the form work. But the form, the material is constantly wearing out. It's constantly changing. So where does the new creation come from? And if you look around you, it's the people that are thinking forward, moving forward. There are more things happening in today's world that's amazing. But where is it coming from? It's coming from the human mind, the human heart. That is not programmed by the ego. These are new people. These are new thinkers. Anybody agree the kids coming in are totally different? And if you haven't recognized it, you better look. Go hang outside of an elementary school sometime and watch the kids. I mean, they're happy no matter what happens. They really are, right? You were a teacher in so that the new life is the creation from spirit, from the creative force of the universe working through us. Now, it's a simple message, but we are so programmed that we don't take the time. So, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. If you really believe that, where would you spend your time? And would you allow things to get in your way and things to distract you? And I'm not asking you to raise your hands, but how many of you eat at almost exactly the same time every day? You make appointments, you know exactly what's going to do, and you're sitting there with your day timer, writing down what you're going to do. Things change. However, do you block out time to do things? Do you block out time to be with your family? Do you block out time to get the car oil changed? Do you block out time to do whatever it is you have to do? The answer is yes. Okay, so how much time do you block out for inner work? And how committed are you to that? Okay, are you really, really serious? If the world is changing, and hang on, it's changing. Anybody notice it? And do I like it all? No. Do I like most of it? Okay. But does it matter whether I like it or not? No. It's still going to do what it's going to do. So how do I affect my personal reaction to that world? I go within, which is the kingdom of heaven is within. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's the same story over and over again, but it's like time to listen. And this is my time. I set it aside and I do it. How many of you have decided to take a class at some point in time to do better at work, to earn more money, or whatever it is? Some of you spend thousands of dollars going to college, taking master's degrees, even doctorate degrees. Okay? Why? Effectively, because the world says we should do that, it means we become more effective in the form world. So how do we become more effective in the spiritual world, which is the world that makes a difference? And we're right back to the phrase, take time to behold. Block it out, do it. Why? Because that's what creates change that's beneficial for me and for the world. So if I'm believing that I'm a victim, if I'm believing that I can't get through to this next door neighbor, or I have a relationship that I've been stuck in for years, or whatever it is, okay, it takes time to behold. Did you ever sit and try to figure something out? And then all of a sudden an idea comes in. And see, that's the quiet time. When we teach, and it's interesting. It's interesting to me how myself, I'm avoiding doing a meditation class. Okay, I can tell the Valerie about when I have to do it. But it's like, I know people, when we start meditation, people don't like it. After 2 or 3 minutes of silence, people get uncomfortable. If you don't believe that, sit with somebody across the table and not talk. And see what happens. It gets uncomfortable within about 10 seconds. Why? When the key to the world in my life is the silence of God. So we are so uncomfortable with silence that we go nuts. Seriously, try sometime talking to one of your family and not talk. Ask them a question, shut up. So it's the silence, the kingdom of heaven within the Father. How do we interact with the Father? We interact in the silence that we set aside. And we think we need like affirmations or what. I don't disagree with affirmations, but it's the silence. Now, it's interesting to me. I'm looking at Catherine. You never know until you try it. It's amazing to me how I see people all of a sudden, relationships straighten out. All of a sudden I see money coming in for them. All of a sudden I see things happening. And I'll ask them. Or they'll show up in class. Or they'll show up in morning meditation. Or they're changing their cycle of what they do in their quiet time. Instead of complaining and looking around and looking for the next thing, they are taking into themselves the silence of God. Having been around, I've been around this stuff for a while. I've seen people come, anybody's seen people come and go. And for some reason, people don't like the silence. It's uncomfortable. You have a question?
Well, I just, I love how you talked about, like, on the physical planet, there is change.
Yes.
That's the way it is. There is decay.
Get over
it. But what if that is such to encourage us, to force us to evolve? Because why would we come up with new ways of doing things if there wasn't decay? So it's a gift. It's a gift that's been given to us to encourage us to think and look at things differently, to improve upon things.
Creative dissonance.
And with every thought begins the creative process.
You understand?
So,
it's creative. In other words, it's uncomfortable, so I do something to change it. Okay? And in the silence of that, I heard.
yeah, that's where the neural pathways get changed. That's where...
See, we're right back to how do you change the neural pathways. Now, I'm getting scientific with it. However, they're still working on all that stuff. But there are breakthroughs now in this conversation. Just even Valerie talking about that is a change. Okay? Because we believe we have to be doing something, we have to create goals, we have to do. And I'm not down in that. I'm just saying, where does creation change? It changes in the silence. And we think we have to do it, and it says the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. So in the silence where things occur, and God already knows, that Jesus said it's already done. All you have to do is think about it, let it go, and in silence. Okay? So we're so busy creating, and we think we have to be motivators and talk and do all this kind of stuff. And it's the other way around. We have to be silent. Okay? Larry.
Yeah. So we have this idea of the perfect world.
Yeah.
And so we try to create that. But the new is nothing like that. Anything that you can conceive, the new is different from that.
See, and
so how do you create something you can't even have a concept of?
Yeah. And the new is already in the consciousness of the creative force. And the creative force is just looking for a channel to bring it into the world through. Okay? So it's when we serve Surrender is throughout everything. Give it up. Stop trying to be the expert, which is, I'm guilty, okay? So take time to be holy. And how do we do that? Well, we try to support this. Now, every morning of the week, Monday through Friday, we have 6 o'clock to 6:30. We open with Daily Word at 6 o'clock on Zoom, and then we spend 28 minutes of silence. Isn't that amazing? Okay? And then after 28 minutes, we say the Lord's Prayer and it's over. Okay? That's really difficult. Okay? And how many people take the time to do that? Look at the grin on her face. Have things changed since you showed up there?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's the program to use, but I'm saying take time to be holy. It has to be set aside. It's called intentional change. See, if we want to change things, if we don't like the way things are, what are we going to do to do it? And we think we have to go grab it and change it in the physical world. And you see, the physical world is slowly deteriorating. The new comes through creative ideas, which come from the science. Okay, how many inventions throughout the world have people dreamed about or had an idea that came through a result? You talk about the geniuses of the world, their ideas came through spontaneously. Okay? Now, this is not a popular message because everybody wants to control everything. But we're talking about letting go of control. And all the great masters, the real spiritual masters, talk about that kingdom within. And it's the same message throughout the different religions. It is. Okay? So, I've said enough. There's something to think about. And the question is, how much time of every day, every week, are you giving to the silence or to learning something that is spiritual and spiritual side of things? Okay? And when I look at all the time I've spent over here becoming educated, I keep looking at that. And the word, by the word education comes from the Latin word educare, which means to draw out from within. Which means, where is the truth? Within you already. It's the core of who you are in the creative force that's available to us. And now here's the idea. To get there, we have to be on an intentional spiritual path. You hear the word intentional. On purpose, planning. What am I going to read? What classes am I going to attend? How much time am I going to do? What time am I going to take my quiet time every day or whatever I decide to do? And some of you do, you have, I know somebody gets up at 5 o'clock every morning and they spend half an hour before they do anything. And a lot of you do that. And generally, most of the spiritual teachers suggest 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening before you go to bed, and let it go. So, now I'm trying to convince you, which I need to back off. Because the world is full of victims. And there is change. And change brings issues. And do I like it? No. Okay? But the key to it is that I'm going to fight it, because when I fight it, I give it power. Or am I going to let it go and look at it from the Spirit? So I love you dearly. Frankly, I had to take a week out of. In other words, we stopped classes for the week because I realized that I was bound up in trying to get everything. Because I want you to like me. I want people in this room. Our message, I believe, is good. It's a spiritual message. It's not a rah-rah message. It's not a feel-good message. It's here as how you change into what you want to be. But, however, is a better term, there is a new language to learn. There's a new words to use. There's a new pattern, a new habit. And where does it come from? The kingdom of heaven is within. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Anybody's had, you're welcome to call me any day of the week, or your home, I know my number, if you don't, I'll give it to you, okay? And, it's like, you see how uncomfortable it gets?
Yeah.
What?
It's comfortable.
It's interesting. I can sit here quietly for a while. And in a way, we are still communicating at this level. So I love you, the kingdom of heaven is within. For God's sake, let's change who we are as a group. Because world peace doesn't occur when people do things, it occurs when people become things. So thank you.